Hello everyone, I'm José Carlos Wahle, the Brazilian representative of Use Labores in São Paulo. I'm here with my colleague Emanuela Nespoli from Tofoleto de Luca Tamayo. We are here taking a break in our annual Congress meeting to have a chat about the EU Transparency Directive.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, Emanuela, about the 4 Ws. What is the PTD? When is it in effect? Who must follow it? And why is it important?
Oh, quite many
Take
interesting.
one at a time at your choice.
Thank you. It's very interesting. So basically, this directive came into force in last year. So it was adopted on May the 10th, and it is quite an extensive directive because it will impose obligations on employers both in the private and in the public sector. The directive introduces a lot of important principles. The aim of the directive, of course, is try to solve or mitigate at least the gap between the pay between male and female employees. And I think that one of the most important aspects of the directive is that it introduces principle of equal pay for equal work or for work of equal value, and this is very important because employer will have to think about trying to implement actually they will be obliged to implement remuneration policies based on gender-neutral criteria, and this is the first step that is introduced by the directive. And on top of this, the directive introduces important principle of information, not only towards the employees, because each employee will have the right to ask for information about the pay, not only for him or herself, but also for the categories of the employee that are performing the same work of the work of same value. But on top of this, the directive introduces a reporting obligation for employers, and this obligation will come into effect on different dates based on the different size of the employers. For example, for employers with more than 250 employees, they will be obliged to issue the first report by July 2027, and this report has to be issued on an annual basis. Instead, for smaller company, for companies with more than 100 employees, they will have more time to introduce measures in line with the directive, and they will be obliged to issue the report by July 2031. And for them, the reporting obligation will be on a 3-annual basis. Yes, and on top of this, I think that one of the elements which employers must be very conscious on is the joint pay assessment that employer will be obliged to carry it out if they will realize that there is a gap between the average pay of male and female for each categories, and if this gap is not justified by objective criteria, they will have 6 months to try to remedy to the gap. Otherwise, they will have to discuss an action plan, or at least to implement some measure together with the unions in order to solve this issue. So this is something that is really important that must be taken into consideration. And what about Brazil?
Well,
how is the situation there?
I think we are one step behind, but catching up. We have a new law in effect, and the first report came out March 8th this year. Second one will come by September. I think we are still figuring what is the gap. Naturally, there is a gap.
Yeah.
But what is the gap? The first report and all the reports will be generated by the government. The government takes some information provided by the companies, other information that they have in their own employment database. But of course, that because they are using a classification of occupational classification, there are different employees within the same groups. So there may be some distortions, or there must be some distortions. Companies at this moment are trying to digest, figure out what is exactly the gap that they have and what gap results from such distortions. I think that by September, when the second report will be publicized, companies would have a better idea. And then the law also has provisions on remediation, even with the participation of the unions. But this is still a bit too early, because companies still have not yet realized what is the extension and the causes of such gap. But remediation will certainly follow for third and possibly second and third report.
Okay, I see. So I think that also in Brazil
Yes.
there is a global trend. Maybe we can summarize in order to try to solve the gap and also without any specific directive to be in compliance.
There are lots of things in common. Of course, there are certain peculiarities according to jurisdictions, but in the end, the target is the same, and we are all going to somehow have to address the gender pay gap.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Emanuela.
Thank you.